Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. This is the Royal Ascot Day 3 preview, the Thursday of Royal Ascot, and this is sponsored by Sky Bet. I'm your host, George Elek, and as has been the case with Day 1 and Day 2, I'm joined by two expert tipsters, Rory Delargy and oddschecker tipster Andy Holding. Now, we've exchanged pleasantries. We've spoken about the weather. We've spoken about the quirks of Ascot. I think people now just want to get stuck into the racing. So we're going to start off pretty quickly with the Norfolk Stakes in just a second. Before we do, I'm just going to point you in the direction, as ever, to the oddschecker app. Do download the app. There you'll get the best prices, which we'll be talking in terms of today, the best place terms, which is essential, as anyone who bets anti-post on Royal Ascot will tell you, or any other meeting, big festival for that matter. Free bets, which everybody loves, the best tipsters, such as Andy himself, every morning of racing, not just during major festivals, but all through the year as well. The man barely ever has a day off, and we're all very lucky for that. So do download the app now. And without much further ado, let's get into the racing. As I mentioned, it's the Norfolk to kick us off on Thursday. And Lucci is the 9-2 favourite. Cadamosto 6-1. Nakatomi 7-1. Second Win 12-1. Andreas Vesalius 14s alongside Go Bears Go, Ebro River, and Instinctive Mole 16-1 bar. Now I've talked up Andy there, but Rory, I'm going to give you first run here for the Norfolk. And I should say, before we get into it, we're recording this at about 1:30 on Monday. So final decks aren't in yet. A bit of guesswork as to who's going to be running where. We can obviously look into the jockey bookings to try and make sense of it, but these races are going to cut up and the prices are going to change. But at this early stage, Rory, where are you looking for the Norfolk?
I don't massively like the Norfolk at this stage, and there are a few towards the head of the market who I think are engaged elsewhere. Ebro River, for example, who would be the shortest price of the English based challengers, is declared for the Coventry, so he'll not be going here. Tipperary Sunset, also reasonably well fancied, is already declared over 5 furlongs as well. So this is again likely to be a Wes Ward benefit, although I can't say that either Lucci or Nakatomi look to have as much on hand in this as one or two of his earlier in the week, particularly the fillies. Both are impressive debut winners, one at Belmont, one at Keeneland. And, the pair of them are quite interesting. But again, it's hard to get a feeling for how the Ward horses are going to go at this stage. And what kind of price you're going to get is largely dependent on how they run in the first day or two. And this is a difficult race to bet in at the moment with a number of them going elsewhere. Cadamosto's a pretty interesting one for Aidan O'Brien. Nune never called out of a fairly useful mare who was a winner over 6 furlongs, and he was impressive on the poly track at Dundalk first time out, wearing a tongue tie, which I imagine he'll wear again here, but obviously nothing declared yet. But he cleared away quite nicely to win by 3.5 lengths. And did that in a good time for the poly track at Dundalk. Very, very different track here, but we know that Aidan O'Brien's more than happy to prepare his 2-year-olds at Dundalk, where he feels that's more suitable in terms of their preparation, and it enables him to get them out earlier as well. That race he ran in was on the 10th of April. The few opportunities on Terrific Camp at that stage of the year would likely come on much softer ground. The form is, it wouldn't say it's absolutely spectacular, but it's worked out reasonably well. Strapped, who was 6th, was a next time out winner. A few of those who finished close behind him have run more than respectably since to back the form up. The question about this race, and the question about the whole day for me, is whether the rain is going to arrive and to what degree. We mentioned this earlier, that there's up to possibly an inch of rain on Thursday morning hitting Ascot, but it's always difficult to be absolutely certain at this, with the weather as it is, whether we're going to get rain in the same sort of quantities. But if we do, then we're looking at a potentially starting on soft ground, and that makes it very difficult to get involved in this. But looking at this and checking out who I think are liable to be non-runners, I think Cadamosto is quite interesting and around, what is he, 6-1 top price?
6-1 like price, yeah.
Yeah, whether he wants soft ground, I don't know. The fact that Aidan's kept him away, he's only given him run on Polytrack. throws it up as a question mark. But yeah, this is the least appealing race of the day at this stage for me, and that's roughly where I'll be going at this stage. But I'd rather it was good ground to be doing that. And of course, you'd imagine that very soft ground would be against both the West Ward horses as well, Lucci and Nakatomi. So it's that potentially opens it up.
Yeah, it's interesting. And something you mentioned, Andy, on the day 2 preview in relation to Armour, who you were hoping, I think, to back in this race, but maybe trainer Richard Hannon saw the weather forecast and decided to run on the Wednesday instead. Where does that leave you for the Norfolk?
Well, I'm glad I've kept my powder dry and haven't got involved yet. Armour would have been the number one choice, but obviously he's gone elsewhere, which is good and bad in equal measures. But this is a cracking betting race for me, because right at this very moment in time, bookmakers haven't quite worked out what's going to go where yet. They're probably still, reeling from pricing up day 1, day 2. And some of the prices obviously are there for certain horses that are already entered up in the week in both the Coventry, Windsor Castle, for instance. So there's a hell of a lot of horses that are going to be virtually halving in odds here, and their chances are going to become a little bit more apparent in the next 24, 48 hours. So I think it's now is the time to strike. The one thing we haven't got, which we have got to our advantage in the Coventry and Windsor Castle, is that bookmakers already priced those races, and they're giving you the extra places as well, the 4, the 5, the 6 place terms. We can't have our cake and eat it. We can't have 5 or 6 places and the big prices about the horses I'm going to be mentioning now. But I think the price is key first and foremost. The 2 horses I really like once you whittle the field down, because you look at about Amalfi Coast. He runs in the Windsor Castle with Ryan Moore, but I think that paves the way, as Roy's already alluded to, for Cadamosta to come here. And the fact that Ryan Moore was jocked up to ride Armour, and Armour's been parachuted into the other race, means that he wants to be safe for Cadamosta. The big problem is for Cadamosta is the ground. He won on the all-weather the first time out. This horse has been entered up 2, at least 3 times, to my knowledge, over in Ireland in the build-up to Royal Ascot. They desperately wanted to get another run into him, and every single time, if it does rain, they're seriously disadvantaged. And that goes to the 2 Wes Ward horses as well, Lucci and Nakatomi. Both of them one on a fast surface first time out. They're both bred to appreciate a fast surface. Lap of the gods, or you're in the unknown with those 2. And these 3 horses take out a huge chunk of the market: 4 to 1, 5 to 1, 5 to 1. Then
12 to 1 bar.
Then you've got all those non-runners, courtesy of other engagements. There's 2 horses here that I'm really, really excited about. Project Dante's one of them, who, like his name sake, won on the Nath Mile first time out. A real proper Brian Smart 2-year-old, knew his job, had to quicken up a couple of times to win that race. He quickened up to get there, and then when all the horses come at him, he went again. I loved his attitude. Time figure was very, very healthy. If you take out all the non-runners, which I mentioned, he's joint top rated with that York time figure. Therefore, no great surprise to see the 2nd, 3rd, 4th all win since. So the form's good, and it was on good to soft ground. So I don't think it'll have any problems. It's not going to go a bog, but it's going to go on the easy side just by the rain. So it's quite handy if you've got a horse that handles soft ground, already proven on it. So he's a player at 16s. And the other one, which is absolutely the complete mythical price, is a horse called Corker, jocked up to run with Clifford Lee on board. 25 to 1 you can get it for this fella at the moment. He finished second to the aforementioned Project Dante, but if you look at him, he completely missed the break. He was clueless throughout the contest, and he finished very, very strongly. He charged through the line. He then went to Carlisle the other day, sent off a warm order. He probably wasn't as impressive as his market price suggested he might be, but once again, he got the job done. Interestingly, that was a stiff track, Carlisle. I do like horses that run well on stiff tracks, your Leicesters, your Sandowns, your Carlisles, proving that they can get up a hill. And obviously, Carl Burt, trained 2-year-old, he's had plenty of good 2-year-olds run here. So 16 to 1 Project Dante, Corker, who chased him home, 25 to 1. They're just grossly overpriced. They'll be half those odds on the day, and they're both going to be big players.
Andy, you've got me excited here. I'm just frustrated we're now going to be recording for the next 2 hours and I can't do anything about it. Project Dante's 16 to 1 at the moment, and 25 to 1 Corker. That is best price with Sky Bet, our sponsors of this show, as well as short as 18 to 1, 16 to 1 elsewhere, Corker. So you want to get on that whilst you can. 2 up against the field there for Andy. And as you say, Cadamosto, I think I'm right in saying doesn't have a jockey booking yet as well, which might suggest that the connections are aware of what's coming in terms of the rain. And Andy, you mentioned that a couple have come out before.
Well,
that Callum has come out a couple of times.
None of Aiden's have been jocked up all week.
Yeah, that's fair.
The deadline for jockey declarations is not the same time as the deadline for the horse declarations. Yeah. So while most trainers take it as being the same thing and declare the jockey at the same time, Aidan will almost always leave those until the very last minute.
Is it an hour's grace? Is it to put a jockey on? Rory? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
And most trainers don't use that, but it's par for the course for Aidan and for Willie Mullins as well, to do that. So you're often left guessing.
It was interesting because when we did our Monday preview, when we spoke about the Mullins jockey bookings, if we'd actually taken note of the two that Ryan Moore was riding, both of them are halved in price in the next couple of hours. So. Yeah, interesting when you get it right, but here, as you say, nothing to be gleaned from nothing being aboard Cadamos as it stands. Now, the second race of the day is the Hamden Court Stakes, and Mohafeth is the 13-8 favourite at this time, with One Ruler 6-1, Moving Time 7-1, Roman Empire 9-1, Maximal 10-1 alongside Visualization, and Secret Protector 12-1, 14-1. Bar. Andy, over to you.
Again, another cracking anti-post betting race, because we got a thin one here in the shape of Mohafeth, who was obviously withdrawn from the Derby. Rather controversially for me. I must admit, I was a bit nonplussed by it. It didn't really make any difference to me. I haven't got a farthing on it, but I just thought from a sporting perspective, there's only one Derby, and we weren't talking about, bottomless ground, and yet, they decided to swerve it and come here. They might get their comeuppance again with the rain that's forecast. I mean, it'd be ironic, wouldn't it, if they swerved it and thinking, we're going to have good ground, good to firm ground, and then they end up getting soft ground again. They might have to withdraw it again. So we could get the favourite out here. So as it stands, this is an anti-post betting race. You don't get rule fours with Mohafeth if you have a bet now. So again, another race you've just got to play in. Finding the right one to beat Mohafeth is obviously a moot point. I wouldn't have that much confidence in One Ruler. I'm not sure about him over the trip. He ran okay in the Derby, but he pulled too hard in the Guineas and then he didn't stay last time. I don't know what to make of him, really. You got other refugees from the Derby as well, and another sort of high-profile races. Maximel's an interesting one. I presume he comes here, does he? Or is he in the St James's Palace? And I've missed. Is it Rory? Is he in the St James's Palace, Maximel?
Let me double check that.
I think off memory he was when we.
He is, yeah. So
there you go.
Put a line through him.
You got the favourite that might be out if they're going to do what they did again, and they've got to almost style law to their opinion, haven't they? It's not when we're drawing on soft ground. So, what do you do in the Derby? They're going to make to look fools, aren't they? Either way with that. You've got the second favourite now runs in another race. One Rule, like I say, is dodgy. The one I quite like at a big price, and I had a round of drinks on him in the Irish Derby. Was Irish Guineas was the Rastafarian or the Rastafarian. He just got stuck out on the wing that day after being slowly away. He raced away from the speed towards the near side where Lucky Vega was. He didn't run too bad. He got about 8 lengths in the end, but I thought that was a respectable run. But if you go back and look at his run in Craven, he was a massive, massive eye catcher that day. He was running over the back of horses, and then once he got out in the clear, he really took off and came home. He's got a soft ground win last season. He finished second to Pythagoras at Pontefract on soft ground. Graham's too firm for him first time at Newmarket, but he handled the conditions in Ireland fine. But I think 1.25 miles on a turning track on soft ground is going to be absolutely ideal for Rastafarian. And he's 20 to 1.
20 to 1 best price, yeah.
Again, it's another race you've just got to bet in now because there's going to be so many different changeable and fluctuating prices. And if you're on the right horse or right horses now, and you're putting some of these in some multi-bets, you could have some incredible value looking ahead and in crystal ball fashion ahead of the field. You've got to get ahead of the herd here at the moment with these 2 days.
Well, the Rastafarian, 20 to 1 best price, as short as 12 to 1 elsewhere. Rory, any others? I mean, Andy's told us why we can't back a few at the top of the market. Are you in agreement? And if so, who are you looking to side with?
Yeah, I do not think the favourite's going to run. And that really opens it up. If they weren't going to run him in the Derby, and we'll have it. The thing that I think with the Derby is that if William Haggas was convinced that he was absolutely flying and ready to run the race of his life, I think he would have taken a chance. I think it betrayed the fact that he lacked confidence in the horse's ability to be competitive at Epsom, to pull him out because of the ground. As Andy says, there's only one Derby. He's a very good judge, the William Haggas, and I suspect there was something else slightly behind that. that if it was rattling fast, he'd have taken a chance, knowing that's what his horse wants. But he's not going to get it here either, or it'd be very surprising if he gets it. And it's difficult to know which Godolphin horses that will turn up here either. And I'm not mad keen on one ruler, as Andy says. If you like the Rostafarian, you've got to give Pythagoras a chance as well. He's a horse I quite like, Pythagoras, although my theory on him is that he will prove better suited by a left-handed track. It was twice a winner going right-handed last season, and actually his record makes it look like he wants to go right-handed. But I didn't think he actually handled the right-handed turns particularly well at either Beverley or Ripon last year. And I was with him when he ran in the Dante. I thought he ran pretty well in the Dante, but given he made the running in the Blue Ribbon trial at Epsom on his reappearance, I thought to change tactics completely and go to and sit at the back of the field rather backfired against him there. Otherwise, he might have been a bit closer. He ran pretty well, and it looks like he's going to run here with Paul Hannigan booked. So again, he's 20-1, and he's got that verdict over the Rostafarian last year. But as I said, I've still got that slight concern about him, how happy he is going around a right-handed turn. The obvious one is Moving Time. He's 7-1. Is that the best price?
7-1 best price for Sky Bet.
He won well at Newmarket last time. Right? Only a maiden, but it looked a strong maiden. The horse he beat, Kamari, was the winner, an impressive winner next time out. He looks like he's bred to be a group horse. He's very much going in the right direction. That wasn't a particularly impressive time, but it was a slowly run race, and he produced quite an impressive finishing sectional there. I thought he'd improve a lot from that. And interestingly, the only other entry he has is a very interesting one on the Irish Derby. So he's clearly held in extremely high regard. He will handle conditions, and I hope he'll handle conditions. And I think there's plenty more to come from him. Andrea, I'd say he's chucked up for another one in the same ownership as well in the race, but I cannot see them running world champion here instead of Moving Time. So Moving Time strikes me as being a very likely runner, and I think he could well start favourite for the race. So 7-1 looks decent value. Again, Andy's point about how the market's liable to change markedly here if and when Mohafeth is taken out.
Moving Time 7-1 best price with Sky Bet, and for Pythagoras, of whom I think Rory's saying it's all about the angles, 20-1 with Paddy Power and Betfair Sportsbook. Apologies to everybody who had to listen and hear that one there. On to the Ribblesdale next, the third race on the day, and the favourite is Noon Star, who's run behind Snowfall. Obviously looks a fair bit more impressive than maybe it did on the day. Second favourite is Divinely at 7-2, Ashada 4-1, Dubai Fountain 8-1 alongside Gloria Mundi, Secret 10-1, 12-1 Twisted Reality, and Taslima 20-1 bar. Rory, we'll start with you here with Noon Star. Of course, we expected her to run in the Oaks. That wasn't to be, and this is the first time we've seen her since that run behind the eventual winner of the race. Yeah,
no, it might prove to be a very good idea that she missed the Oaks, although that wasn't deliberate. Was she running a temperature in the week, and they had to take her out? So the other way of looking at that, she's sort of coming off a little bit of a setback, so that's slightly off-putting. But obviously, the form has been franked. She was very strong at the finish when she won it at Wetherby. That's a race that threw up the Lingfield Oaks Trial winner as well. So that looks solid form. And she proved she handles soft ground really well when winning at Nottingham last season. So she's an obvious favourite, and I'm not against her. But I'm inclined to give Dubai Fountain another chance, assuming she's an intended runner here. She got no other entry at the meeting. She's 8-1 and possibly bigger in another place, but 8-1 I can see. And she's got the best form in the race. I thought the form from the Cheshire Oaks hasn't worked out as yet, but I think it was very solid form at the time. Neither her nor Zayada give their running at all at Epsom. They ran absolute stinkers, but I don't think for a second that was a poor race. Nicest and La Charconde in behind them there. It looked a good race on paper. Dubai Fountain won it in good style. Her best effort last year was when beaten less than or just over a length in the Fillies Mile on soft ground at Newmarket. She definitely stayed the trip. I mean, she stayed 11.5 furlongs well at Chester, but for whatever reason, she blew out badly at Epsom. I'm inclined to forgive that at the prices. If she was priced up on her overall form, then I'd be a little bit wary of touching her. But she's something like 4th or 5th favourite here. And I think that's maybe even bigger than that. I think that's an overreaction to one poor run. She's got a solid form from last season. She kept improving. Her best form came on soft ground. And I'm just inclined to write Epsom off as a complete disaster. We've seen fillies come back after disappointing at Epsom to win this before. Magic Wand was a little disappointing at Epsom before winning this in 2018. And I think Coronet ran terribly well in the Oaks her year before winning this. So a poor run at Epsom is not a bar to winning the Ribblesdale. And for me, 8-1 is just too big a price about Dubai Fountain.
Yeah, 8-1 Dubai Fountain. Also came into some serious market support before the Oaks. There was an absolute plunge on Dubai Fountain before the race, although that wasn't justified in terms of her run. And who are you looking at, I should say, in the Ribblesdale?
Yeah, I've still got a docket somewhere with Noonstar's name on it for the Oaks.
As do I.
Yeah, so that's potentially going to light the fire for next year's bonfire. But I was quick out the traps with trying to recoup my losses when I saw the prices for Noonstar for this race. Basically, before the Oaks, I thought, well, if the first 4 or 5 in the betting don't run, there's a good chance that Noonstar, if she recovers from slight ailments, will come up here. And there was good reports or bulletins afterwards. I checked with contacted someone that knows Sir Michael and Mikey Holden quite well, and they said, yeah, still on track for Ascot, blah blah blah, and you could still get a decent enough price a couple of weeks ago. So I backed Noonstar there and then. So yeah, and the race looks as though it's disintegrated quite nicely. Ashada scrambled home at Newbury, second favourite. Time figure was pants, so I'm not really worried about that horse. Rory's case for Dubai Fountain's a valid one in many respects, although there's the odd form line look, which I thought was good off the back of that Cheshire Oaks. Didn't work out as well as I thought it might. But yeah, then you're getting on to horses that have been getting beat in maidens like Sea Carrots and Gloria Mundi. I mean, it's a modest race. Time figure wise, Noonstar clocked the fastest middle distance filly time in winning at Wetherby early on in the season. That the race worked out really well, as we all know, and then the race was a joke at York. The Musidor, it definitely favoured the winner, although obviously the winner's gone on to prove that theory incorrect in many respects by winning the Oaks. But look, she chased that filly home valiantly when she wants a more stronger run gallop where it's an emphasis on stamina. The rain falling won't bother Noonstar either. She's already proven on soft ground. She won at Nottingham towards the back end of last season when it was an absolute bog. Dare I say, everything's all the stars are aligning for Noonstar. What can possibly go wrong?
What can possibly go wrong indeed? 11 of 4 best price Noonstar. Andy looking to recoup his losses and maybe get some money back from that Oaks bet for Noonstar. Dubai Fountain, the one for Rory. On then to the Ascot Gold Cup, where Stradivarius is the 10-11 favourite with Subjectivist 11-2, Trushan 8-1, Spanish Mission 10-1, Santiago 12-1, Serpentine 14-1, Emperor of the Sun 16s, 20s bar. Andy, I'll stick with you here. I mean, I've asked you the question probably 20 times the last few years. Stradivarius, short price favourite. Is this a banker or is this one you're looking to oppose?
On fast ground, yes, without a shadow of a doubt. He's been the best stayer for the last 4 or 5 years. Gold Cup's tailor-made for him. He cruises for 2 mile 2 and then he quickens like a 1.5 mile horse. He's just very, very difficult to beat under those circumstances. But the one way of getting him beaten, the only way he will get beat, is if all that rain comes. The one time he got particularly arduous conditions, and it was towards the back end of the season in October, was the Stayers race on Champions Day, and he got absolutely battered by Trushan. Now, Trushan's the absolute polar opposite. He's very much a horse who has to have soft ground to be at his best, and he's likely to get those conditions. I mean, I don't know how soft it is going to be, but according to all the reports, it is going to be fairly soft. It could be up to like 20 odd mil, so that'll definitely play into the strengths of Trushan. And I just felt the other day he kind of looked as though that run at Chester was just a kind of exercising him, bringing him on. They didn't want to give him too hard a race first time out. I don't think it was any disgrace to get outpaced by Japan, who was a world class horse over a mile 4. I think they must have come away with that race delighted. And he looked as though he got Japan in trouble a little while down. Back on genuine soft ground over a stamina sapping track like Ascot, which he proved when he won in October. I actually think he's one of the bets of the week. I really do. I think his current 7 or 8 to 1 quotes. Once people realise that the ground's going to change and are anticipating rain, and then let's say it does rain on the day, and let's say it's good to soft in places or something like that, well, we're guessing, but that's seemingly what it might be. I could see him going off again 7 to 2, 4 to 1 maximum. So yeah, I think there's a few races on this Thursday and Friday we're going to be talking about here where I think you've got to be betting now, because there's going to be a huge shift in dynamic. The prices are going to completely look different on the day. The whole flavour of the races are going to look different. I mean, Subjectivist, again, he's another one that not necessarily wants soft ground. He's a proper fast ground horse. You could give Princess Zoe a chance if the ground went soft, an absolute out-and-out mudlark. So there's other horses that are going to be seriously upgraded if this ground does change. But, I mean, Trushan, he's just stand out. I mean, 7.5 lengths. He won that race last year. An unbelievable time figure as well. It was the fastest time figure we got the whole of last season was in that race. So, yeah, 8 to 1's a must bet now, if you can back that each way.
8 to 1 best price as it is for Trushan. A strong one for Andy there. Rory?
I can't agree more. He's an absolutely outstanding bet, Trushan. He's got, as Andy says, he's got better lifetime time figures than Stradivarius does. Stradivarius is very well suited by the fact that not many horses can really sustain a gallop at 2 miles and beyond. So these races tend to be run at a reasonably modest pace. And if you've got a horse like Stradivarius who settles really well and then can quicken at the end of any distance, it's a perfect setup for him. He wins it with a turn of foot. A lot of the races, the Group 1 races he's won, the overall time figures of those races are ordinary. But he's done it by having a superior turn of foot. Look at last year when it looked a reasonable race with a couple of furlongs to go, and he's ended up winning 10 lengths on ground that he was supposed to not like. And in that kind of form, he's very hard to beat. But Trushan galloped him into the ground in October. And you're sometimes wary of end-of-season form, but you look at Trushan's career record, and it's tremendously solid. He goes from strength to strength. He wasn't pulling a big figure out of thin air that day. It was a little bit of a surprise on the day, but he'd been very, very progressive up to that. His one blip was in the Ebor, which is very forgivable because anything that wasn't on the pace at York didn't play a part in the finish. He did pretty well after a slow start to be beaten only 8 lengths in the day. But he showed how good he was by winning next time out, getting right back to form. And then he produced that effort. You just got to watch the race again. The temptation is to say, because Stradivarius was down the field, that there's some kind of fluke about it. You cannot watch that race and think for a second that it was a fluke. He was absolutely different class on the day, Trushan. And what he can do, we haven't seen him at this trip. That's a slight question mark. But he can maintain an absolutely devastating gallop for 2 miles and further. And the way he was going clear at the finish at Ascot over 2 miles in October suggests he'll actually relish the trip. Cracking run at Chester in a race that wasn't run to suit. He tried to drag the finish out of Japan, and he just got done for a turn of foot by a horse he was conceding weight to. And Japan, is a multiple Group 1 winner. So for him to concede weight at a trip that is short of his best was still a very good performance. He'll come on for it. I cannot believe he's not second favourite for this. And I think he should be reasonably close to Stradivarius, who did make a reasonably impressive return, but he didn't look quite the horse of old at the end of last season. And I think, at the age of 7, the cracks may be beginning to appear with Stradivarius, whereas Trushan is very much going from strength to strength. I think he should be 3 to 1, 7 to 2 short, I think.
Yeah.
And 8 to 1 of this is. We don't know how much rain there's going to be. I would be absolutely stunned if there wasn't any rain. And good ground would be fine for him. He's capable of winning on good ground. But if it turns soft, that's very much in his favour. And the market simply hasn't reacted to it. I think he's a really solid bet. And I agree entirely with Andy. One of the bets of the week.
Trushan, 8 to 1, agreed. Rory and Andy, one of the bets of the week at Royal Ascot. Time for the fifth race of the day now on day 3 of Royal Ascot. It is the Britannia Stakes, and not a single figure price in the field as it stands at the moment at this stage. We've got Air to Air is the 10-1 favourite ahead of Radeberg at 12-1. Belmont Avenue 14s with Mithras 16-1. George Peabody, Dino, Probe, Liffey River, Cahill, Horoscope, Visualization, Royal Pleasure 20-1 Bar. Just blank canvas this one, Andy. Take it away.
Yeah, if ever there was a race in contrast to all the others where we know a lot of facts that we need to know.
Yeah.
The draw and the state of the ground. This is it. It's not like the other races where we're going to get a whole plethora of non-runners and, we're not worried about the draw, blah, blah, blah. There's angles to be had, but I don't think there's one here, as far as I can see. What we can say is that the two horses that stand out for me based on what they've done visually, clockwise, and they're likely to handle the ground and handle the track would be Air to Air. I always like horses to win at Doncaster. Doncaster's a really good hold-up track where you come through at the end and you wait, and the ones who plays their hand latest tends to win. And Jamie Spencer was brilliant on Air to Air the other day, and this track is absolutely tailor-made for him because he's a horse that gives himself a chance. He's not a hard puller. He's a horse who relaxes in his races and almost comes alive in the latter part. You have to wake him up. He's got soft ground win as well at Newmarket the time before, so again, ground not a problem. I still think he's considerably well handicapped. He's likely to get in. He's 33 in the card, but I'm sure 30, maximum 30, 3 will drop out and he'll get in. So yeah, I think I think at the moment he's rightly towards the top end of the market. And the other one I've been quite impressed with is Roger Varian's horse. I think Varian had the winner of this race last year. Was it Calusi who won this race last year?
Think so.
He's quickened up twice, really strong. He's also called Roderborg.
Roderborg, yeah.
I mean, if it rained between now and next Christmas, he'd still be quite happy with that situation. But again, he's done good numbers and he looks a classy horse. See, the handicap, I think so as well. He's got a rating of 99, which won't be easy, but he's a big player. I think Visualization, the other soft ground horse, goes for the Golden Gates on Saturday, so I'm led to believe he would have been another possible, having won a straight track cover race last time against the older horses. I think he's a nice type. So look, I'm just giving you a few notes to conjure with here without nominating about 25 horses, which you could do. But yeah, those are the ones I'll be looking at this very moment in time, who won't be affected by the ground if it does change.
Air to Air 10-1 pretty much across the board, including Sky Bet. Radeberg 12-1 best price as it stands. Normally I'd say, Andy, you can't just put it the top two in the market, but when they're both double figure prices, I think we'll let you get away with that. Rory?
Yeah, those would also be on my shortlist for this contest, but it's quite a big shortlist. And there's not a huge amount of juice in the prices, and as Andy's pointed out, unlike a couple of the earlier races, there's no great angle to betting early in this race. And again, you want to see how the draw sets up and what the going is going to be like here as well. But yeah, I think he's probably mentioned all but one that I'm interested in. Liffey River on my shortlist. Royal Pleasure hasn't got to mention. He's an interesting one, son of Kingman, for the Sir Mark Prescott yard, who doesn't have too many Royal Ascot runners these days. He'd rather be running them at Carlisle during the week and whatever else. But he did me a very good turn many moons ago as a young man. I backed Wizard King in this, and I backed his runner of the previous year each way. He finished second as well. Don't You Dare. And Royal Pleasure, although he's not tried a mile yet, he's guaranteed to improve for it. There's a slight question mark about how well he will handle softish ground, but he won really well at Wolverhampton on his reappearance, and then he was turned out and sent off at odds on at Kempton last time out, but he wasn't suited by the way that race was run, and ran on late to finish second behind Red Mirage. There's a lot of improvement to come from him, and I'd want to keep him on side. He's number 30. So he will sneak in. One who probably won't get around, but is interesting at a potentially a big price, is the Nigel Tinkler runner, Isla K. I thought he'd be a bigger price. The firms aren't really. There's no point sticking horses in at 50-1 for this, because you're not going to see any money for them anyway, and you don't want to get caught out. So a lot of these horses who are priced up at 20 and 22-1 will be much bigger on the day. Isla K may not get in because he's number 46, but we don't know. If people are convinced the rain is coming, a few of these might defect. He was a winner on his handicap debut on soft ground at Doncaster. That looked a pretty competitive race at the time. He beat an unbeaten rival there by 4 lengths, making all the running. But he'd also come from behind to win his maiden at Redcar last year, and I think you can probably put him anywhere in a race. Because of his connections, because of his low weight, he'll be ignored in the betting. But if he does sneak in, which is a little unlikely, he could go. He could cause a surprise. Soft ground will be absolutely fine for him. Both wins have come on a soft surface, and if he doesn't get in there, stick him in your notebook. I think he's potentially a very interesting horse for later in the season for a pretty shrewd yard. But yeah, it's a tough race at this stage. There are obvious claims for about 10 horses who are 16 to 1 or shorter, and not difficult. Well, it is difficult to pick between a few of those. So I'm not going to get too carried away. I'll throw a few ball, but at either K, the best price I can find. But I suspect he won't get in the race. Otherwise, it's Royal Pleasure who I'd probably favour there over Liffey River.
Yeah, Royal Pleasure, best price 16 to 1 and 25 to 1 Isla Kai. And as you mentioned, if Isla Kai is balloted out, you would get your money back because it wouldn't just be a non-runner there. So that would be one way of playing it. Although, as Rory says, you might get bigger on the day. On to the King George now, where Nagano for Roger Varian is the 11 to 2 favourite ahead of Title at 8 to 1. Siskany is 10 to 1 with Sir William Bruce and Salamarak and Surefire. First Light 11 to 1, Surrey Gold 12 to 1, Parachute 14 to 1, alongside Mystical Dawn, Lawn Protector, Inigo Jones, King Frankel, plenty others in there as well. Now, Andy, we just on Salamarak, a horse that we've spoken about both on and off air a fair bit, a horse that we both had tickets for that can go on your bonfire. I'll send mine in the post for the Derby. Do we think we're going to finally see Salamarak here at over on these shores in the King George at Ascot?
Yeah, I mean, of all the races he could potentially run in, I would think he's short
on Friday, isn't he, for the King?
Yeah, I mean, this one would be the last on the pecking order, really. Yeah. I mean, if he was good enough to be even thought about as a Derby contender, which I personally thought he was, just wish he would have run now. But anyway, that's for another day. The King Edward looks his obvious target, doesn't he? He's rated 100. He won a handicap last time out, but it's not the kind of race you want to be. He's not the kind of horse or the kind of race you want to be winning with a horse like this. It's just he's in that echelon of like being talked upon as a group horse. Why would you have him in the Derby and all of a sudden run him in a handicap? It's just not Aidan's thing, particularly if he's got a race like the King Edward high up on the shortlist the day after. So yeah, I can't see him running in this. I think it's a question of nominating horses that I don't like that I do like here. I mean, this is a who's who of 3-year-old time figure horses. I'd literally be here all day ticking them off. Nagano, big number on his last 2 runs. Surefire, big number less the other day. Title, beat a really good horse at Yarmouth the other day, very fast time. Condo Island, Condo is Armour, involved in a very strongly run race last time. Chalkstream got beat by a good horse last time at the figures. King Frankel, second to Bay Bridge. That was a massive time figure at Newby. He was unlucky not to win at Epsom. Literally, I could be here all day. The one horse, I will throw one into the mix of the big prize, if he does raid and reigns in large quantities, is a horse called Tash Khan. Likely to be underestimated because trained by Brian Ellison. But if the clock is anything to go by, he did a superb bit of work at Haydock on his last run when he beat Chalkstream. Chalkstream had won very easily the time before and was well fancied off his new mark, recess mark. And he got absolutely battered by Tash Khan, who left him for dead with an amazing final 3 furlong split time. And that was off the back of a very strongly run race. He's gone up to 86, which might or might not get him into the race. I don't know. He probably might need a bit of luck. But if he did get in and the rain came, he'd be one to consider. But that is definitely a race where I'm not going to spend too much time until I see the full depth of ground and the draw, because I'll be literally having a sleepless night trying to
back the whole field. Tash Khan is
good. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there's at least 7 or 8 potential group horses in that race, which is often the case.
Tash Khan 25 to 1, best price as it stands. Rory,
in the same way as Andy does, I want to see the draw. I want confirmation of the ground, but I bang on about this race every year when I talk about it. You want to be with the highest drawn horses here. Again, it seems to surprise people every year. When this was run a couple of years ago on soft ground, South Pacific actually won it for Aidan O'Brien, and he trained the first 3 home. But In behind the winner, the draws of the next horses home: 18, 19, 20, 21, 15, 14, 22. And no single numbers among those aside from the winner. And year in, year out, you get horses winning this from very high draws. Or sometimes the very highest draw is often the best to have. As long as, again, you need to have connections who understand that there's an advantage to do that. The best way of riding the track here on soft ground is from a wide draw, stay wide on the track until getting to the first turn and then move in. Whereas jockeys tend automatically to try to move towards the rail straight away. And that negates the benefit of the draw. You need to be going forward and staying wide on the track. You avoid the congestion you tend to get on big fields towards the inside. You get a clear run. And half the time in big field round course races, most horses are beaten because they're hampered or they're unable to get a run when they need it. And therefore, getting a clear run is hugely important. And the best way of getting a clear run is staying away from congestion on the inside of the track. And year in, year out, high-drawn horses do really well over this course and distance. And year in, year out, TV pundits seem very surprised by that. So the bias is still there. It doesn't stop you winning if you're drawn in the middle, but it's generally a negative to be drawn very close to the inside. When you see the final decks, as Andy says, there are maybe a dozen horses in here who are of interest. But I would narrow that down to horses who are drawn very high and pick off those firms who price them up as if the high draw is a negative, and maybe bag 4 in the race. If you fancy one very strongly from the middle, I wouldn't put you off it, but I would be looking to get value in horses drawn 20 and higher, or certainly the top 4 or 5 draws in this race.
There you go. As useful, I think, as any selection. Some good strategy there from Rory on the King George backed horses. Well, those you fancy and with high draws, the way to go for this one. And so keeping the powder dry until seeing the draw, but a fair few likely types in there. So you shouldn't be spoilt for choice when that does, when we do find out the draw in a couple of days, or I should say tomorrow, actually. On then to the last race of the day, the Buckingham Palace, where Lord Campari is the 10-1 favourite ahead of Boardman at 11-1, Red Mirage 12-1, Amethyst 14s with Aldari and Persuasion, Tom Free, Hong Kong Harry 16-1, Stunning Beauty 16-1 on the Warpath 16s with Blue Mist, Bielsa, Volatile Analyst 20-1 bar. Rory, I'll come to you here for the lucky last on day 3.
Yeah, this is not an easy race to get involved in either, because I guess that some of the more interesting horses here are liable to be heading elsewhere. But the one who really takes the eye, and I'm pretty sure it'll be running here, is Aldari, who's not going to be a fancy. What price do you get Aldari there? Aldari
is 14-1 best price.
Oh, that's a pretty...
It's a big price, too.
It is a big price, yeah.
I was expecting to say 7 or 8-1.
Yeah, he looks like... He won his first 3 races, all of them on easy ground. He met his only defeat last time out at Goodwood in a race that's worked out well. He was third to Roscommon, but he was drawn very high, and Jim Crowley took a pull, leaving the stalls to try to get him across to the inside. I'm not a big fan of that tactic as a means of winning races. I think he lost a lot of his chance there. He was an odds-on favourite that day. He was beaten 3 1/4 lengths again into third, but did good late work to grab third place. Looked I'm not sure you'd say he looked an unlucky winner, an unlucky loser in the day, but I think the way the race panned out didn't suit him. The tactics didn't work for him. And of course, Roscommon has shown that to be decent form by winning again since. He will love 7 furlongs and soft ground. He's got exactly the right kind of profile for one of these Ascot handicaps. You're either looking at those horses who turn up here all the time, who aren't particularly well handicapped, but keep giving the running at Ascot. Your Raising Sands, your Escobars. And I wouldn't put you off Raising Sands here. But when you find one who's completely unexposed, who has ideal conditions, and the handicapper hasn't quite got him yet, you get the impression that you've got something very much in your favour. And Aldari, while strictly speaking, he arguably needs to improve a little more to win off 105, because he's only had the 2 handicap starts. I think he's almost certain to improve. He's almost certain to have conditions in his favour. Jim Crowley's already booked up. I think this goes off a reasonably short price favourite. So 12 and 14 to 1 is very appealing indeed.
Aldari 14 to 1 best price at the moment for William Haggis. Andy?
Can I just copy and paste what Rory said?
That's fine.
When he said Aldari, I was surprised that he said Aldari, because I was thinking Rory will never tip a favourite here. It's not his style, as he said. He's always looking for a bit of value. So, and I saw 8 to 1 sort of like on the Racing Post. I thought he won't go for that. And then you told me it's 14 to 1, which I can't get my head around that. I mean, this will be 5 to 1 on the day, absolutely guaranteed. Bookmakers will react to the going change. They'll realise it's a high profile, sexy horse. It's going to get shorter anyway, organically. But then when you add on top of that the fact that a lot of these sexy ones get even shorter in the market come the off. They open up at 8, they go 7, 6, 5, and think, God almighty, it's gone off 9 to 2, this thing. There are a few bets, as we're pointing out here, that on Thursday and Friday, you've just got to have, even if you didn't fancy Aldari, you've just got to have it, because in a 14 to 1 shot, that's going to go off 5. But yeah, the race at Goodwood was a mess. It didn't suit him at all. He was too far back. But he's a course and distance winner. I mean, course and distance form, which we've talked about to a great extent in most races, is like gold dust. If you've got a horse that handles Ascot and can come off the speed and can show a turn of foot, then more power to you. And the fact that he's done it mostly on soft ground as well is an even double bubble job, was the foot of the handicap. I think we've pushed both of our chips into the centre with True, Shannon, yeah. So we can get 8 to 1, 14 to 1, and each way double on those two.
Beauty. There's the each way double for the podcast. That sounds good enough for me. Fingers crossed they both get there. And if they do, I think they're going to be very short indeed. So is it worth me even asking you for your naps, or have you just rattled them off there?
Again, I'm in complete agreement. We disagree on a few things, but those two horses both look the wrong price. And they look like certain market movers on the day. Unless we miss this rain altogether. But even then, I still think you're probably on the right side of them.
Andy, what's the nap?
Trushan, absolutely, all day long. At the price, because I could nominate, shorter ones in the betting that have obviously got more obvious chances. But at the prices, you've got to be having more on those kind of horses, and you have, your 2 to 1s that are more likely to win based on their market position. But when you see something like that that's so stand out, then you've really got to fill your boots.
And you're back in Trushan each way.
Well, you've got it back at each way to be on the insurance, haven't you? I tend to bet each way most of the times when I can. Rory's probably more, I'll have a win bet and perhaps cover on something else, but I'll be pretty sure Trushan have been the first rate to the point where I don't mind, having a good crack at that. And is Trushan the one for you as well, if you had to pick one nap, Rory?
I'll go Aldari just to round up the double.
just to put a bow on it. Yeah, perfect. Well, that's the each way double. Thank you both very much, Rory and Andy, for sharing your thoughts on this day 3 preview of Royal Ascot. We've done day 1 and day 2 already. We're about to do day 4, so do listen to the podcast on any podcast platform, the Oddschecker Betting Show, or also subscribe to the Oddschecker YouTube channel as well, where you can find all of our previews for Royal Ascot and plenty else there as well too. Thank you very much to Sky Bet for sponsoring this show. They have plenty of enhanced place terms and other things and offers on other days racing as well. So make sure you do check out Sky Bet. Do download the Oddschecker app for the best prices, bookie offers, place terms, free bets, and some of the best tipsters in the game, including Andy himself. Most importantly, though, please do enjoy the racing. Fingers crossed we put up a couple of winners here today. Definitely a couple in that podcast I'm quite excited about myself. But most importantly, please make sure you do gamble responsibly.